Right guys, so welcome back to today's video. Today's video we're going to go over a little bit of a progression from one of the videos I posted last week, my sort of knee stability video. So as I mentioned in that video, I've been working with a few sort of clients who are experiencing some knee stability issues, and I'm kind of just sort of sharing with you kind of the process I'm taking them on in terms of getting them back to sort of pain-free movement and getting back to sort of pain-free movement and producing stability upon ground contact. So the first video is very much sort of what I define as sort of entry level. Everything is kind of static, in place, learning positions of landing, learning how to activate muscles, what it should feel like when we lock out at hip extension, knee extension, where we should be landing and moving from when we kind of go through some jumps and hops. So learning how to sit back and engage the posterior chain along with the quadriceps to produce stability. And how we're kind of progressing that through to sort of more dynamic movements. So what I really like to do is, obviously once we've gone through that period of sort of feeling muscle activation and positions, we then need to challenge it, because training is a long-term process, right? One of the problems that we have in modern society is we're constantly being sort of sold the quick fix and the best 6-week program. But the reality is that the best program you can do is one that progresses you for not just weeks or months, but years. Okay, it's a continual development, and once you master stability in one movement, we challenge it. We're constantly trying to enhance our skills so that we become better movers and better athletes. So where I like to start off the next progression for knee stability is on the strict walking lunge series. Okay, so I've done a video on this separately, both in isolation, and I've shown it as part of my warm-up, because this is the next step, right? We're taking things like the low box step down or the terminal knee extension, and we're putting them into movements. And the goal here is that we become complete masters of our body weight and really in control of that sort of meter radius around our center of mass. So I perform these super strict, keep them as strict as you possibly can. We ideally want to get to the point where there is no wobbling, no loss of balance, and we can just lock into that top position, always earning the right to take the next step. So don't rush through that sort of tall part of the movement. Make sure you can feel your quads, feel your glutes kind of engaging like you would do on those low box step downs, and bring that movement into this movement. Okay, so I go through the forward strict lunges. I then take that into reverse lunges, so walking reverse, again a bit of a unique challenge when you can't see where you're going. We then go into the lateral, and again learning to move out laterally, where we're placing our foot under our center of mass to be able to propel ourselves back up. Again, this really starts to familiarize ourselves with where our foot needs to be if we're going to change direction in sport, with tennis or football or whatever it might be. Really starting to groove that movement pattern or groove that landing mechanics so that we can just become super efficient at it. We then go through the hip hinge, again learning to produce stability with no knee bend and utilizing the hamstrings. And then we go through the curtsy lunge. So the curtsy lunge is a new one I've kind of added to this. It's something that I've done sort of on and off over the last year and stuff, but it correlates to that sort of clock drill that I did in the first part of last week's video, where we kind of bring our rear foot behind us. So it's a nice way of learning how to stabilize in that plane of motion. So again, the goal of this is just to master it. It's to become so efficient and so good at it that, you know, we need to add load or we need to add speed to the movement to challenge it even further. Now from here, I like to go to my hop and stick drill. So this is, again, focusing on single leg, 5 to 10 reps on each side. Like, there's no amount of reps you're going to do today that's going to make you a master. It's understanding that this is something that we need to touch regularly so that we can continually get better at it, okay? So I like to go through forward hops, and now we're hopping. I don't care how high or how far, okay? This is a low intensive jump, and we're merely focused on being consistent on that landing, sitting into the hamstring and the glute, not riding forward into the knee too much, and sharing that load amongst the hip and the knee joint. We do forward, right and left. We then do backwards, right and left. We then do a medial hop. So that is when you're standing on your right foot, you're jumping to your left, but bringing your right foot underneath you. Again, do that right and left leg. And then we do a lateral, which is a little bit more challenging than the others, because it's very rare that we'll kind of jump that foot out, but it's something that we want to get good at. And each of these have their own unique challenge. Like, how do I utilize the core to stabilize my center of mass so that I'm not wobbling too much? And how do I overcome this challenge, really? Because that's all these really are. Then we go into a zigzag lunge, okay? So right foot hopping across a line to your left, and then hopping back to your right, and just getting good at just controlling those forces. You know, where is our center of mass going? How do I control the propulsion and the landing? Because those two things come hand in hand, right? And then from there, we go through into the lateral bounce. So this is, again, the first sort of progression. Now, you'll see this from the sidewalks that I did, the mini band sidewalks, even the standing clams that I had in the first video, is all kind of preparation for this. Learning to propel ourselves off the ground with our standing leg. Now, a mistake that people make on the landing leg is they reach it out too far. The landing leg should never leave our sort of center of mass. We're not reaching outside of our hips. If we get into the habit of reaching outside of our center of mass with our landing leg, we're going to expose the knee to very unnatural forces, okay? We always need to keep the foot under the knee, keep the knee under the hip, and keep the hip under our center of mass, right? So that is how we produce stability. So it's learning, for some of you, to how to coordinate that movement so that we aren't just trying to gain as much distance as we can through our extension of that landing leg, and we're actually trying to generate that force off the standing leg, which for some people find a little bit challenging. And then once we've kind of gone through that, I like to take people through my dynamic hop series, okay? So this is a build up off of the hop and stick drill, only now you do one hop and stick, then you do two hops in a sequence, and then stick the second landing. Then you do 3 hops in a sequence, stick the second landing, then you do 4. So you're getting 10 hops on each leg, but with sort of 4 landings. And now this kind of just picks up the momentum and learning to provide stability in a slightly different environment. Now I will do this going through the forward, backwards, medial, lateral, and zigzag. I think it's really important that we start to piece together the dynamic nature of sprinting, running, change of direction. And we're slowly building towards that. Hopefully you can see, even from this video, from the last video and this video, how things are blending into becoming more dynamic, okay? And you don't want to jump steps in this, right? Because if you can't produce stability, or you're inconsistent at producing stability on the hop series, master that before we're worrying about sort of sequence hops, okay? And again, once all of these look good, we build upon it, right? I don't believe in necessarily you need to do the strict lunge series for 4 weeks or the hop and stick for 4 weeks before progressing it. When I'm coaching people, it's like once it looks good and they look like they've mastered it, I challenge it. And I challenge it with either a more complexity in the task or a challenge stability. Maybe that's with holding a plate overhead on the strict walking lunge, or plate out in front, or moving the plate around your head as you do certain movements. Anything that can change the way that you perceive the stability challenge enhances our skill, right? That's what we're always looking to do, is to progress our understanding of how to produce stability. And that can come with increasing load or increasing intensity. So once these look good, I like to go to hop and stick, but we're now putting a bit more of a cycle and a bit more intent into the jump, okay? Because that just gives us more load upon ground contact, which makes it harder for us to stabilize. And we're starting to build those sort of eccentric natures that come with deceleration, which is vitally important for change of direction and knee stability in sort of fast movements, fast change of directions, regardless of whether you're a tennis player, you know, a football player, a rugby player, and you need to make cuts in the sport, or you're just an everyday person that wants to go hiking up and down hills, right? We need to build up this stability upon ground contact from different ranges of motion, different forces. And then the last one I like to do is to go through my A switch and stick. So this is now stabilizing in a much taller position. And again, I've done these drills and shown similar drills for this for my upright running mechanics. So we can start to see how this knee stability work and the more dynamic nature of this blends into sprinting, running, just being really athletic, right? So over the course of the last video, someone coming in with potential knee pain, and we're trying to really develop their understanding of how to produce stability. And then as we progress through this, they're now starting to challenge that stability with more dynamic nature. And then when we come into the A switch and stick, and then we progress to the triple A switch and stick, the progression from here is just high knee running. Progression from there is stiff leg bounds. And I'm going to do another video on sort of the more advanced movements for stability and knee stability, okay? So that'll be the third and hopefully final video of this sort of series, where you can see that training is a progressive tool. So regardless of where you're starting out, so even if I take someone in that might be a professional athlete, I will start them out with the simple ones, and that all you're hoping is that because they're an athlete and they hopefully move well, that they should be able to perform them with consistency and efficiency, and you can just progress through quicker, okay? But if you, even regardless of a professional athlete, if you find something in the first thing that they can't do, make that better before you worry about progressing it along that line, okay? So it's always about having a little bit of self-awareness, using these exercises as a way of checking in with where are we currently at, and constantly trying to expand our sort of movement and capacity and our movement efficiency. And that is ultimately the road that leads us to progress, right? Because hopefully we should be less likely to get hurt through non-contact injuries of playing sport, which means that we can play our sport and keep training more regularly, which only is going to yield more progress, more strength, more athleticism, which is ultimately the goal, right? So hopefully you found this useful. Hopefully you took a lot from this video and see how it kind of blends in. If any of you would like to see how this works in real time in terms of getting me to program for you, then please follow the link that's in the description below. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out or drop them in the comments section below. But until tomorrow, guys, I'll see you later.